Katrina Shanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to take a call this afternoon. I'd like to congratulate you and your presiding officers on being re-elected in this Parliament. I'd like to begin my address this afternoon talking about three very inspirational groups. We've heard a lot of negative talk in this House this afternoon. I just want to talk about these three groups I've met in the last couple of weeks. The first one I want to talk to is about Maria Johnson. Maria Johnson is the founder of the Little Skills program in Wellington. She's an entrepreneur. She won the Her Business Awards in Wellington at the end of last year. She's absolutely passionate about early childhood education. In fact, she's so passionate, she is in the process of breaking through into China and their markets over there. Totally inspirational for business and businesswomen in particular in New Zealand. I'd like to talk about the Sanofi cyclists. The Sanofi cyclists are a group of world-class cyclists who suffer from type 1 diabetes. They're elite athletes who can prove and inspire other diabetes sufferers around the world that can go out there and you live your life to the full. They were recently in New Zealand competing and they came first or second, I believe, in the races they ran around Palmerston North. The third group is the Johnsonville and Newlands Volunteer Fire Brigade. Like these volunteers and all other volunteers in New Zealand, they give day after day, week after week, year after year to their communities. They are the backbone of our community and our country. I went to their awards ceremony and it was great to be part of that. Annette King was present as well. It was good to see. And it's always good to celebrate people who go out and make a difference in New Zealand. These three groups of people represent Kiwi ingenuity, Kiwi spirit, and the Kiwi way of life. Now, we've heard in this House, in the last couple of speakers in Labour, about failures, about how badly the country is going, how there's no hope for the country. Well, actually, you're absolutely wrong. And when CEO just sat down and said, well, I've just been around my businesses and I can tell you, well, I just went to Maria Johnson's business yesterday and I can tell you we have got some wonderful entrepreneurs out there doing some great work. Very often do we hear from the Labour members about solutions. Solutions to the problems that face New Zealand. Solutions to our challenges and any innovation or inspiration at all. Well, lucky this national government has a solution. We have a plan and it lies in the spirit and the ambition of entrepreneurs like Maria Johnson. The role of models of our cyclists and all those who work hard for our communities. National is committed to building a brighter future, and it's so good to hear actually the opposition talking about the brighter future that we have. And I'm going to look in CEO's Hansard because I believe he talked about the brighter future most probably 10 times in his 10 minutes. So it's great to see he believes in a brighter future for New Zealand, where New Zealanders have opportunity, where they're going to have jobs, where we're going to have higher incomes, where we're going to have better public services. And when I talk about better public services, what do I talk about? I talk about more elective surgeries. I talk about ensuring that our Māori and Pacific Island children have access to early childhood education. That actually we provide early childhood education that they want to access. We're going to ensure that we have high targets, like the 95% targets for immunisation for our children before they get to school. Like rheumatic fever, reducing that instead of it increasing under the Labour government. How? Oh my goodness. You know exactly how we're going to do it because we've got our 120 action plan. And it's funny, Claire Curran's now sitting in the back there. And last week, Claire Curran said to us, you have no plan at all. And we said we've got the 120 economic action plan, and Claire Curran goes, what 120 action plan? And actually, it's on the internet, www.national.org.nz, and anybody can go and have a look at it, because it's a very comprehensive plan, and it takes us through the next 3 years. Unlike the Labour Party, who have no plan, no vision, no aspiration at all. We have 4 main priorities over the next 4 years. The first is responsibly managing the government's finances. The second is building a more competitive and productive economy, delivering better public services, and of course, rebuilding Canterbury. Okay, so how are we going to do it? Great question, I'm pleased you asked. What we're not going to do is we're not going to borrow more money like Labour would have done if they got into government. Because we are all sitting back and watching Europe and seeing all those countries which are heavily indebted and knowing we cannot borrow any more money. In fact, I believe that the Labour Party in the election, they campaigned on borrowing billions of dollars more money. And we're not going to do that. We know we're not going to do that. We're thinking of other ways of raising capital, and one of those is through our mixed ownership model. But we alone as a government can't reduce the debt of the country. People have to take responsibility for reducing their own personal debt as well. And we know that the tax switch was significant in ensuring that New Zealanders got to find a different way to look at how they're getting their money and what they're going to do with it. So we know that before the tax switch, for every dollar that was earned, $1.10 was spent. And after the tax switch, for every dollar that was earned, 99 cents was spent. So we know that New Zealanders are changing the way they are saving and spending their money. In fact, in 2008, personal loans were $13.25 billion. Now, personal loans are $12.5 billion. That is a significant decrease for New Zealanders in how they're spending and saving their money. And this government is committed to returning to surpluses in 2014-2015. We're looking at $300 million in surpluses in our forecasts. We know that we have to be financially responsible, fiscally responsible, to ensure that we keep the pressure off interest rates. Because we know what one of the biggest pressures on households are interest rates. So we need to keep those low so mortgages repayments stay low. And also we have to be responsible for our exporters to ensure that our exchange rate is stable and as beneficial to them as it possibly can be. But we know the only way we're going to grow our economy is through our exports, being productive and being a competitive exporter in overseas markets. We know that we need free trade agreements, and successive governments have worked towards that. And we know that our biggest trading partners are Australia and China, and they have to be our biggest trading partners because they're the growing partners. We can't afford to go back to our traditional partners which aren't growing. If we want to grow, we need to ensure that we hitch our wagon to those economies which are growing as well. Mr. Speaker, I'm excited about the future for our families, our businesses and our organisations in New Zealand. I'm excited that Maria has the opportunity to one day expand into her business into China because of National's commitment to business. I'm excited about the future of Sanofi cyclists and how they inspire others in New Zealand and in their communities to overcome adversity day after day. I'm proud that so many people in New Zealand are willing to put their hands up to help each other, to help their communities. And I'm excited about this government having its second term and that we can deliver the brighter future that we promised. We believe in opportunity, personal freedom and the ambition to succeed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Claire Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.